Biden is actually going for a permanent suspension of the funds to stop border wall construction. So it's actually, from what I can tell, significantly worse than what Trump did. Joe Biden is currently under investigation.
Uh-oh.
Yes. This is good news for Republicans. This is good news for the border crisis if it turns out that Joe Biden broke the law. The thing that's really amazing about this investigation is he's being investigated for the same thing that Democrats used for the basis of Trump's first impeachment. If you remember, there was the famous phone call with the president of Ukraine where Trump said, I'll withhold funds if you don't investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And Trump did temporarily withhold funds. And the Government Accountability Office ruled that Trump could not withhold funds that had been appropriated by Congress. Now, fast forward to 2021, Joe Biden has withheld funds to stop the construction of the border wall as one of his first acts as president. And Republicans have alleged that Biden is breaking the law, like the Government Accountability Office said Trump did by withholding funds to the Ukraine. So it looks like if the Government Accountability Office rules against Biden, Biden broke the law in withholding funds for the border wall, which is a pretty spectacular place to find ourselves in. I mean, it's good news for Republicans.
Yeah.
It's great ammo to have. And, I mean, theoretically, Republicans could use it to try to impeach Biden if they wanted to pull the same card the Democrats pulled on Trump. Do you guys think that Biden broke the law here by doing what he did, canceling construction?
I mean, that's tough to say just from like a purely legal standpoint.
Yeah.
From what I've read and gathered and looked into, it does seem remarkably similar to the same conundrum Trump found himself in. But yeah, that is a tricky one because it does feel as if Joe Biden will always have will never face the same type of scrutiny that Trump did.
Absolutely.
So that does beg the question, just because Biden made the same type of mistake as Trump, will that lead to something similar, like Trump's impeachment and stuff like that? I don't know if that'll be the case, just because, like I said, Biden will never face the same scrutiny Trump did.
Right.
Yes, I think Biden did break the law. I don't know what will come of it.
Yeah, I think something that's really interesting to note here is that Trump's suspension of the funds was temporary until an action was done. Biden is actually going for a permanent suspension of the funds to stop border wall construction. So it's actually, from what I can tell, significantly worse than what Trump did.
Let me ask you a question, Joey. Just because I think a lot of this legalese can be confusing to me particularly, but what are the funds, Joe Biden stopped construction of the border wall funds. And that's the issue of this matter, having looked a little bit at the GAO report, is that Congress, they say, the Republicans allege Congress appropriated specific funds for border wall construction, and Biden is not using those funds for what Congress appropriated them for. So what are those funds being going toward?
So that's the thing. So it sounds like Biden is saying, okay, well, maybe we'll use them for enhanced fencing or stuff like that. But the thing is it was specifically appropriated for the wall. Right. So even if Biden wants to use that money for, say, increased technology at the border or fixing, patching these, little baby fences they have at the border, that still doesn't qualify for what the funds were appropriated for in the first place.
Yeah. And I think it's a tough one. I can't say whether it's illegal or not because I'm not a lawyer, and I just, again, I'm not qualified probably to make that judgment. I do think that what this kind of says about kind of the way that Congress appropriates money is I tend to think that when Congress passes something, they have millions and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that they pass, and there's wiggle room, right? Yeah. And I wish there wasn't that wiggle room. I think that Congress has the power of the purse. They ought to appropriate things for specific reasons. And it sounds sort of like they may have done so, but Biden may have found like a loophole. Right. I think presidents, the point I'm trying to make is that I think presidents in general probably have a bit too much power when it comes to spending money that Congress has appropriated. Yeah. So, this should, remember, these things are Congress's jobs. I think the power of the presidency is, a lot of that power is actually what ought to be Congress. Now, I have to, look at it and see, did he break the law in this specific instance? I don't know.
Sure.
I do know that it's up to Congress. It's not up to, Joe Biden. I also know that, when Trump was president, it was he had a heck of a time trying to get the wall built. Yeah. And I remember, I think the kind of the compromise they finally reached was like, we'll give you some money for something kind of resembling a wall in return for like a deal to avert, to reopen the government, I think. But I think Congress needs to do a better job of, making that stuff much more specific so that there aren't these loopholes that Biden can kind of go around.